welcome to the next episode of the Psi Academy. And in this episode, we're going to be talking about empathic development. So with empathic development, one of the strongest keys about how we become a much more psychically aware empath is being able to silence the mind. And that is basically not involving destroying your thoughts or trying to feel that you need to, throw your thoughts out of your head or anything of that particular nature. The key of silencing the mind really just comes through the ability of being distant. So if this represents the perimeter of thoughts that are coming into our mind, basically what we are doing is creating a distance. Being able to see them from a bird's eye view. And when we are in that particular state, we are no longer attaching to the thoughts themselves. We are now surrounding ourselves into our own space, creating a bubble of our own awareness. And when we allow the silencing or the distancing of the mind, we are able to now be one with feelings. You are simply in your own space. You are simply aligned to what the heart is attempting to tell you. Some of the most empathic people that you will find became empathic not because of diet, not because of belief systems, or any particular type of modalities. They did it because they have a very open heart. A heart represents that of someone who is able to empathically connect to themselves. One who may feel very sensitive, again, has a very large heart. Sensitive people are basically the most adept at becoming empaths because they can feel everything. They can sense everything around them because they have spent so much time developing this ability of kindness, being able to feel everything so deeply because they have really spent perhaps one lifetime or many lifetimes working on the heart space, working to forgive themselves, working to forgive others, and that they have that incredible sensitivity, and that is making them very aware of feelings. In fact, if you know some sensitive people in your life, just watch them. See how they interact with other people. See how they may pick up other people's feelings quite easily because they are heart sensitive. They have opened their hearts very, very deeply, and it's very easy for them to bond with another's field and being able to detect the feelings of what that person is going through. What sensitives will also do is they'll take on the emotions. They'll take on the personality of a person that they are interacting with. They may just all of a sudden sense that they're feeling a little more heavier, or they're feeling a little more conversational, or they're feeling a little bit more timid. This has certainly happened to me when I've done sessions in the past, is being able to connect to a person's energy, then all of a sudden feeling this huge wave of anxiety, or feeling this huge wave of aggression or rage. I'm like, whoa, what is this? And being able to tap into the person and saying that as soon as I tapped into you, I just got this huge feeling of anxiety. Yes, I'm a very, very nervous person. I'm trying to work with this anxiety that I have. Okay, that explains it. Or I have this major aggression. I feel so angry and I don't know why. Oh, that's what I'm picking up, right? So again, this is what makes a good empath, is being able to open up their heart and feel what it's like to be in the other person's shoes. So it's not so much in the idea of being able to forward a state of intention where you're putting so much effort and you're trying so hard and you're putting all these thoughts together and trying to read a person, trying to get an impression about what they're going through. You're not going to be able to feel that. As long as you put so much thought into this, trying to be controlling of the thoughts, then you're going to be lost in that way, you're only going to be accessing yourself. Because for you to focus on the bombardment of your thoughts is to remain within the bubble of your own universe. You're not going to get past that barrier. You have to see it as a type of asteroid belt, right? That's what our thoughts can represent here, is if we are just cluttered by thoughts and we have to overthink our own ability to be empathic, to be telepathic, to being able to get some type of extrasensory perception, well, then we're just bouncing back and forth into our own personal thought-based asteroid belt. And we're not able to get past it. This is why, again, it's important to silence, distance the mind. Keeping yourself at a distance, keeping yourself in a space where thoughts may be present, but you are not giving them energy. You're not giving them focus. They will always be there. Thoughts will always be there. That's a part of your natural energy system. You will always have this asteroid belt of thoughts. Does not mean that you must always attach to them, always involve yourself with them. Because the minute that you do that, then you are just simply stranded within your own universe. And I see a lot of beginning psychics doing this, is just feeling that they are attaching themselves to so much thought. Oh, I think he is, and just bouncing like a ping pong ball back and forth into the asteroid belt of their own thoughts. And that is where you are just basically bouncing back and forth with the ego. Hitting these thoughts. I think I want a chicken dinner. That's not what I'm sensing. Yeah. So you're getting all of these particular thought bombardments coming your way because you're not stepping outside of yourself. You're putting too much effort into it. That is the interesting thing about being an empath, about developing yourself empathically, is being able to surrender. When you surrender, your field begins to expand. Your body begins to calibrate itself with the natural process to enable a connection to be forged with other energies within your reality. So we're basically accessing the quantum field. We're accessing the field of awareness, where everything from a microcosm to a macrocosmic aspect is communicating with us. So we're being able to tap into that quantum source. And now we're able to get feedback because we have centered ourselves to listen. And that is one of the biggest qualities for an empath, is to listen. Just listen. Just be open, be in your own space, and listen to what the universe has to tell you, to what these tethering cords of consciousness are attempting to share with you. And when you're able to do that, you're now experiencing a whole new reality. You're discovering a perception of how the balancing, the hemispheres of energy work together with you. And you're now listening to what energy, what the quantum field has to share with you. And now this is your personal education. This is your own inner CNN. Now you are becoming empathically aware. And of course, clair empathy is one particular psychic ability. Now, empathy can also be shared, again, if we're looking at the energy of intuition, through other means, as we know, as I've talked about in previous videos. Clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentience, claircognizance, clairgustance, etc. All of these different types of clair abilities we have. But we're looking more so in the idea about how the empathy, because that's one of the direct roots to the intuitive energy, is that it is telling us the feelings that we are observing, that we're connecting with, and giving us an idea about what another person or another event, another place, another thing is attempting to tell us. And it does take some time for us to really understand, to really get what this energy is attempting to tell us, because it works with subtle vibration. Okay? So subtle energy is the language of intuition. It is the language of empathy, right? We may get some very, very strong emotional people, and they are basically intensifying these waves, but again, it is translating to us through subtle energy, and now we will impact ourselves by noticing that strong, impactful wave of emotional energy. So the idea of emotions can be very, very intense. But again, they're like throwing huge rocks in the pond, and we feel these ripples, right? So those ripples are being sent out. But as an empath, we're completely calibrated with detecting subtle energies, right? Now here's the funny thing, is that when an emotion gets so strong that you're right in the blast radius, so to speak, of the emotion, sometimes you don't even have to be an empath to feel that emotional state. This is what happens when a person is just yelling at the top of their lungs and they're freaking out, and everybody in the room is feeling this, and they're scared, right? There's just so much fear coming out of this person who's just throwing things around and screaming at the top of their lungs and becoming so unbelievably violent. Everybody in the room can get freaked out about that, right? Why does that happen? Because, again, this is the blast point of that emotion. These ripples just radiate everywhere, and they're blast waves, right? And so those in that sense who are sensitive, who are detecting the subtle energies, can look a lot more into the emotion other than people that are just feeling this ripple effect, right? And so when we get that feeling of a person who's just blasting this emotion in that way, the best thing to do, leave their space. Let them vent, let them calm themselves down. Not about feeling that you need to run in there and say, hey, calm down. If they're that upset, they may try and deck you right in the face. The whole idea is not to interrupt with the idea of someone who is venting emotionally. Hold space for them, or otherwise just leave their space, okay? Because they are just unleashing this. This is like a graviton emotional bomb that is going off, right? There's not much you can do with that as an empath. You simply hold space for that person, or you leave their space. And just let the emotion come out as it needs to. Once they have calmed down, now you can work with them. Now you can talk with them again. Basically, you're entering a war zone as soon as you see that enormous aggressive behavior, that aggressive emotional state, just like a blast radius, just hitting this sonic boom of incredible ripples of energy. Because again, emotional energy is extremely powerful. It's again, overstacked feelings, like taking all these feelings and stacking them on top of each other until the body can't take any more, and there's a trigger. The trigger hits, bam, we get this outrageous emotional explosion. And again, no, it's not a subtle energy, that's for sure. But it's basically hitting everybody in the room who are sensitive or not empathically sensitive. Everybody's feeling it. But again, what is being said here is that an empath can look beyond the emotion and find out exactly what's happening and translating to them in subtle, energetic ways. Okay? But again, just hold space for the person or leave the person space if you're dealing with an outrageous emotional situation. So again, looking into silencing the mind, be one with your feelings, connecting into your own space, opening up the heart space. So again, this is a big question that a lot of people still ask. How can I make my empathic ability stronger? How can I make my heart wider? Is there a technique? Is there some type of tactic? Well, you could certainly see it as a technique or a tactic. What it really represents is that you are being more empathetic. That's the key. That's the secret here. Be more empathetic and your heart will expand. Your heart will grow. You will become much more sensitive when you are learning more about feeling. So when you are opening up to your own feelings, when you're noticing that you're holding things inside yourself and you have perhaps this very heavy state of apathy, you're now giving yourself permission to look into that, to explore that a lot further. Perhaps that involves going into altered states of consciousness, going through hypnotherapy, maybe having a psychoactive experience, whatever it may be, going into deep meditation. But being able to discover exactly what is withholding yourself from being empathically open. And again, it is just traumas. It's traumas that we bury in the dirt. So we got our little shovel here, and we're just burying everything. We don't want to feel. And again, that's how apathy is. Apathy is a band-aid as it relates to traumatic situations. We put a band-aid, we put a very heavy blanket over it, we bury it under the sand, and we don't want to look at this. This never happened to me. Never looking at it again. So we have basically buried our trauma in the backyard of our minds. And it's all about being able to go back into that backyard and dig it out and look at it again and find out exactly why we have developed such numbness, such apathy as it pertains to our own empathic capability. Because that is what's going to make you a stronger empath, is when you surrender, is when you look into these aspects of trauma that have prevented you from feeling as deeply as you can. So when we do that, that is what's going to allow empathic ability to strengthen. It's through the idea of going through these particular types of resolves. What about telepathy? Is telepathy a part of empathic awareness? Absolutely. Are all of us telepathic? Absolutely. How are we able to develop telepathy? Listen. Form a bond between people. Form a bond between nature. Form a bond between animals. It is relationship that allows telepathy to be at its strongest potential. So when you are in relationship with a lover, for example, two of you can be incredibly empathic and can be incredibly telepathic. You're able to project thoughts back and forth, and you're talking to each other, maybe you're texting each other, and you're noticing how these synchronicities just arrive. One person's thinking about what to have for dinner tonight, and then your partner texts you back and said, yeah, let's have sushi for dinner tonight. I was just thinking about dinner. I was just thinking about what to have. There we go. Bam. Telepathic moment. Sometimes we don't even realize that we're being telepathic with each other. In fact, many people do not realize that. But there are people who are so deeply bonded and so empathically aware of each other that they can simply close their eyes, form a picture within their mind of their partner, and actually have this inner voice to inner voice communication where they're talking to each other. And then they talk on the phone a few minutes later and said, hey, did you get that entire conversation? I said, yeah, every bit of it. Here's what you were talking about. Oh my God, that's amazing. How did we do that? Empathic awareness, right? There's something in regards to a vibration, a certain magnetic that exists within certain people. And basically you could see this as a type of resonant frequency harmonic, which I'll call an RFH, a resonant frequency harmonic. And that there's something in regards to the magnetism between one person and another that just clicks and goes together so well. One may say that they have a soul union, that they're basically kindred spirits in that way, or soulmates in that way. That could be true, but it's basically that their frequencies are so non-resistant to each other that other particular connections are opening up. So other connections are opening up within the neural pathways, other connections are opening up in the DNA, other pathways are opening up in the quantum field, in our morphogenic field. And that as these connections open up, just by the two being aware of each other, or even being present with each other, you have these very, very in-depth aspects of telepathy that come together. Now, there may come a point where many of us will be able to translate that telepathy with others because our electromagnetic fields are changing, our DNA is transmuting, our neural pathways are firing up more than ever. So there may be opportunities in the near future, just based in regards to where we're going through natural energetic evolution, that telepathy can be a very natural thing. Right now, we're mostly just noticing it between some people we know. And I've had a lot of stories about people who have talked to me, partners, for example, who have had these telepathic dialogues with each other. Or they may just have it one time and they can't do it again. What happened? Well, because they found each other again. And so there's no need for that telepathic communication. It's basically just a bridge to help each other find one another and be with another together. And of course, there are those who are so incredibly advanced with their own magnetic fields, with their own ability of empathy, that they're able to have natural dialogues with others who cannot reciprocate that telepathy, but can hear the voice within their minds. Basically hear this conversation that's happening, or just receive this flurry of images within seconds. And this person is able to communicate with others in that way. And that's kind of a rare case. I have yet to meet anybody of that nature, but I've heard stories certainly about people who have been able to do that. Just being able to meet these strangers, just being able to be silent, and then everybody in the same time hearing his voice inside their mind, and being able to get these barrage of flurry of images that come together through this direct telepathic link. May be possible that this person was extraterrestrial. Certainly very possible. But that's not to say that we don't have that capability as well. We certainly do. But it does require a great deal of mental training. It does require, in that sense, an improvement, a discipline, as it relates to our energy, as it relates to our bodies, as it relates to our emotions, as it relates to our feelings, as it relates to our DNA, as it relates to our neural pathways, as it relates to our relationship with people and with the quantum field. All of these variables are at play. But the whole idea here is that we're just looking at basic empathic development here. So when you are feeling that telepathic connection, or when you're feeling the empathy of another person, you want to encourage yourself to go deeper with that person. Maybe you just have a photo of that person, and you want to just get more of an understanding about why they're feeling this anxiety, why they're feeling angry. And as you explore that a little bit more, you're basically just talking to your own guidance, your own consciousness, about saying, I want to know more about why this person is anxious. And now you'll just get this flow, because I get this quite a bit when I dive into people's energy. And I'll start looking into their emotions, I'll start looking into their feelings, and I'll just say, I want to know why Bob or Joe is going through this particular struggle relating to this emotional state. And then I'll get more information, and then I'll start confirming that with the person and saying, well, this is what I received based upon that emotion. So, oh my God, yeah, that's exactly what I've been going through, right? So basically what we're doing is we're psychically probing. So we're going through a type of psionic here, and we're going into the idea of being able to use our psi ability to probe the feeling, to probe the emotion a lot more. So think of it as a root that's tethered to another root, tethered to another root, tethered to another root. And each of these roots have data packs, or information packages within it. Again, accessing the quantum field, accessing the Akashic records, and getting information as it pertains to these specific roots. One emotion leads to another, leads to another, leads to another particular belief system, leads to this situation, and you're just getting glimpses. You may not get the entirety of the event, but you're getting glimpses, and you're basically spreading these breadcrumbs along for the person so that they can now realize what they've been holding on to. So we're tracing the roots. We're tracing the roots until it comes down to a source. Once we're in that source, now we can definitely help to understand this. Yes, there's some sort of trauma that happened when you were a little kid, probably about 5 to 7 years old, and something in regards to a massive explosive argument, and you were scared for your life, and you swore that you thought one of your parents was going to die. You were just absolutely trembling with fear, and you just wanted all of this to go away. And shortly afterwards, it felt like everything was being buried. All of a sudden, bam! My God, yes, I remember that now. I don't know why I couldn't remember that before, because we had to trace all these roots back until we reached a source. So this is how you know you're working with a very good empath. They want to continue to work with you, continue to develop that empathic connection, and helping to trace these roots back until they reach a source, and you find out exactly where that fear stemmed. And it started with this person at 7 years old, huge argument, didn't want to be there, thought one of her or their parents were going to die, just wished everything would just go away, and scared almost to death. And that trauma caused gaps in the memory as time progressed. That's how it works. Intense trauma will bury these memories. Again, burying that aspect through fear. And then we develop a numbness about that, and then time continues, and we forget about it, because apathy has been our coating blanket to that energy that represented that traumatic event. So an empath will go into that, and they'll start to develop that connection with the person and being able to trace it right to its source. That is what a good empath can do. In order for you to do that, you want to explore the subtle energies. You want to be able to listen. You want to be in your own space. You want to be one with your feelings. You want to have that resonant frequency harmonic just by listening, being aware of what you feel, quieting the mind, just letting yourself be in that beautiful space at a distance, away from the asteroid field, right? Being able to detect the emotions, the personality, connecting with your intuition, developing telepathy with others that you feel a very strong relationship and bond together with. That's how telepathy connects. It's a person who can deeply form those loving bonds with you. You can have amazing telepathic experiences with. So again, work with your emotional states, work with your intuition, work with your feelings. Make this heart bigger by coming to terms with the feelings that are within you. If anything's buried, look into it. Discover more about what happened and open yourself up. That is what makes a stronger empath. Look deeper into these feelings of others and explore them. Have the willingness to explore. That's how you become a powerful empath. An empath that can be of great service to others, most importantly, great service to yourself so that you can expand and move yourself into higher dimensional states of awareness. Thank you so much for watching this episode of the Psi Academy. I am Brad Johnson. And again, feel free to visit realitywhisperer.com. Private sessions, courses, free media, and a lot more. Thank you again, and I will speak to you in another perspective of the now. Take care. Namaste, and may it be well with you.